directors and our public policy committee. We're really grateful that we have the opportunity to present this year's mayoral candidate forum for the city of Utica. And at this time, I would like to introduce our candidates. We have Frank Czapski and we have Thom Dionne. So welcome and thank you, gentlemen, for being here tonight. We are also thankful to our media representatives from C&G and the Shelby Utica Macomb Gazette, who supplied some of the questions for today's forum. I will be serving as the moderator and will also be asking the questions that were prepared by our media representatives. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for a personal introduction at the beginning of the forum. Names will be drawn to determine the order of those introductions. Names again will be drawn to determine the order for responding to questions. Unless there is a disagreement, once the first question is asked, we will simply rotate the order of answering. So we'll just alternate back and forth who gets to answer the question first. 2 minutes will also be allowed to answer each question, and the number of questions we ask will be determined by the amount of time that we have available. Following the Q&A, each candidate will also then be given up to 2 minutes to give their final statement relating to why they should be elected or reelected. To my left, we have David Barron. He is our 2018 Chamber Board Chairman. He is going to serve as our timer tonight. When you are close to 1.5 minutes, David will hold up his hand to let you know. And when your 2 minutes are up, he will stand and you will be given a few seconds to wrap up your response. At that point, we will move on to the next person. So we thank the candidates for participating and we thank the audience members for attending. We just ask that both our audience as well as fellow candidates not engage in any applause or cheers or jeers or other unacceptable behavior. Our intent tonight is solely to inform and to give Utica citizens an opportunity to better know all of our candidates and to learn how those candidates would help move the city of Utica forward. We're anticipating this forum will last approximately 45 to 50 minutes. Thank you. We'll now move forward with our personal introductions, and you will have 2 minutes for this, and I'm going to draw a name to see which one of you will go first. Thom, you're going to go first for this, so you'll have 2 minutes to start your personal introduction.
Are we ready now? So good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Thom Dionne, and it's been an honor to serve as your mayor in the last just under 2 years. I can tell you I ran for mayor when I realized that there's opportunity when Mayor Noonan was going to retire, and I thought it'd be a great time to get involved in the city because I've always wanted to be involved in the city of Utica. I grew up here. I attended St. Lawrence Church as a kid and did my first 2 years of school there. Then followed by education at Wiley Elementary, Epler Junior High, and Utica High School, where I graduated. I graduated in 1991 from Utica, and thereafter I joined the military and served 5 years in the U.S. Army as a U.S. Army military intelligence operative and operator. So working in the public sector, being a public servant, has been part of my life since I was 18 years old. Having left the military then, I served 10 years as a police reserve officer in the city of Lathrop Village, and then thereafter joined full-time police service in the city of Grosse Pointe Farms, ultimately now, where I serve as a public safety officer, which means I serve both as a police officer and firefighter. Serving my community and my country is in my blood. I believe in strong labor unions. I believe in strong work ethics. Having grown up here, it's nice to see that both my sisters, my stepsister and my sister, teach in our Utica community schools, one at Flickinger, one at Wiley, where I also attended. My wife's a teacher as well. My father was a union member for Sterling Axle Ford for 34 years, where he also served as financial secretary. So labor unions and a union family is something that we came from, also a family of service. So the greatest service for me is being able to give back to my community and serve these 1.7 square miles honorably and represent the city in the best possible light. So I'm proud to be from Utica. I bleed orange and black, and I'm very thankful to be here today as your mayor. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, Frank, you can give your opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Frank Czapski, and I am a current city councilman, DDA member, and member of the Michigan Municipal League. I'm also an assistant principal at Southfield Public Schools, and I'm also the union president of the Southfield Association for School Administrators. My campaign is comprised of three basic tenets: principles, integrity, and experience. Love where you live. I've lived here for 14 years. I've raised my family. My wife Elizabeth is sitting in the audience. I have my son Carter, who attends Flickinger Elementary. My daughter Olivia attends Epler. I'm committed to this city. I chose Utica for the great community, the strong schools, and the neighbors that really support each other on a daily basis. I'm connected with all neighborhoods and been listening to what citizens want to see in the next election and the future of the city of Utica. Senior citizens who want to be heard on issues of senior housing, items resolved like telecommunications, door wall repair. Our young people who want safe parks. Our middle-aged voters who are also focused on public safety, infrastructure improvements in our roads, and restoring transparency and trust back to the city. My 5 tenets, some will say, how is that going to be played out? Number 1 is vision and leadership. Number 2 is transparency, restoring that public trust. Number 3 is infrastructure improvements, making sure that we are dedicating funds to rebuild aging pipe systems. Incremental development in land use, DMXD for downtown mixed use. And lastly, community commitment, treating all residents' concerns in the same manner, without bias, enhancing police and fire, and affordable senior housing. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you both for your opening introductions. I'm going to draw a name again to determine who will go first, answering the first question, and then we'll just alternate from there. So this first question will go to Frank. Okay, and we're going to draw a question now. We have 11 different questions that have been submitted, and we'll get through as many of them as we can in the time that we have. First question is, one of the responsibilities of the mayor in Utica is to run the city council meetings. What approach should Utica's mayor take to keep the meetings orderly while at the same time allowing residents to share their input?
Well, I think the biggest thing with running a meeting is making sure that you're following the rules. Very similar to the city when you're talking about code of ordinances. Making sure that what's shared in council meetings is legal and can be shared in those meetings. Making sure that council is included. When you're prior to meeting at our meetings for city council, you have to be able to go over the rules, especially with new members that are coming to council. That's essential. In a timely fashion, you have to make sure that you're addressing the mayor's chair, because that's where it starts. It starts in that mayor's seat, and you have to know everything, and you have to keep learning. And as the mayor and council, I would say to advocate bringing them into certain trainings with the Michigan Municipal League, because that's important, because not always you'll have that depth and that background. So that's very important, the training sessions, as well as bringing in our other staff to assist with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll read the question again. One of the responsibilities of the mayor in Utica is to run the city council meetings. What approach should Utica's mayor take to keep the meetings orderly while at the same time allowing residents to share their input?
Well, one responsibility that the mayor has is to run the business meeting, like you said. However, the mayor's position in Utica is a 1 of 7 member board member. So their vote weighs no more than any other council member on the board. Past practices has shown that public comments were limited to the end of the agenda. When I became mayor, I made certain that people that had their voice heard regarding an item on the agenda got to speak before the council, before the meeting took place. So if they had the agenda in their hand prior to the meeting and they were passionate about a particular item on the agenda, they had a chance to actually speak on it. Past practice only allowed comments to take place after the meeting had concluded, where the motions were made and the motion either was carried or denied. But nevertheless, the people didn't get a chance to hear their voice. Or I should say, council didn't get a chance to hear the people's voice. And that's what really matters. When you're the mayor, you're advocating for the 5,000 people that live in this city. Okay? And although you are the mayor and you have the center seat and your responsibility is to run the business meeting, don't make the mistake of confusing your position with other people's experience or past practices. So I take that job, even though I sit there in the seat and sometimes use the gavel. I do it without ego. I do it with the idea that when I'm speaking to our residents, we are a member of 7 people up here as a panel representing the 5,000 people that are our constituents here in the city of Utica. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Thom, I'm going to have you answer this next question first, an alternate. And this question is, for the past several years, the city of Utica has used reserve funds in order to pass the city's budget. How would you propose the city create a budget for the future that does not rely on using reserve funds?
Well, the last thing I'm going to do is give you answers without truthful, or give you hypothetical questions without truthful answers. We have adopted a negative budget for the last handful of years. We adopted a negative budget this year and the year prior. And the year prior, we adopted a budget that was somewhere nearly $250,000 in the negative. I don't have the actual figures, but just for a rough figure, that's where we were. But through good practices and through tightening up our purse strings, we actually saw a net revenue of $150,000. So that's a $400,000 swing from what we proposed to what we actually ended up with at the end of the fiscal year. To be able to sit here and tell people that we're going to find a way to raise taxes or increase revenue is very difficult because we are 1.7 square miles and we have just so many residential buildings. We have just so many commercial buildings. We have next to no industrial. And if you look at the industrial municipalities, Sterling Heights and Warren, they have these fantastic industrial entities that provide a lot of tax base. Us, prior management, saw fit to have a baseball field built here that provides 0 tax dollars. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you take something that's a multi-million-dollar corporation and they pay 0 in taxes. If I had a chance to do it, we would invite people just like that in to our area. However, we'd be tax-driven and conscious of what the residents need as far as their taxes are concerned, especially being that we can't actually put a higher tax on people. The one thing I hear very often as the mayor is, our taxes are high, and they are. I live here too. So we can't risk the services that we provide because we provide excellent services. And we can't possibly lower the taxes to provide lesser services because you wouldn't want to live here with lesser services. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Frank, I'll read the question for you again. Okay. For the past several years, the city of Utica has used reserve funds in order to pass the city's budget. How would you propose the city create a budget for the future that does not rely on reserve funds?
I think the most important aspect of being mayor is listening to people, but as well as refining the budget. You cannot run deficits in the budget. When we're talking about 2 years, we've had 220, I think it was 140, 150 this year that we've had to take from reserves. Just like in education, you cannot run a school district when you're running deficits yearly. How do you attack that? Well, when you look at it from a perspective, you have to look at where is your money at within the school or within the city. About 2.6 out of the 5.8 is personnel costs. I know that from my experience with labor unions. That's where your money's at in a city. How do you work with those unions? How do you work with all of the unions to be able to come up with a plan to address those fiscal inequities, longevity costs? You have to address those. It's the elephant in the room. But you do it in a cohesive, collaborative way with the unions. Another one, when we're talking about taxes, taxes were raised in the community. We do pay high taxes. So how do we get back to where we can be in a positive setting? You really have to look at what are we allocating, what funds are we going after? And do we have an individual that's on staff that assists with us gaining monies for the city in different aspects, from police to fire to DPW? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, next question. Frank, you can be the first to answer this. What will you do to attract more small businesses to downtown Utica?
I think one of the keys to attracting small businesses is building incentives for those small businesses to come into the city. With that, you have to have those small zoning changes that allow for small businesses to thrive. We've had some businesses recently move out. We've had the Shake Place, Swarm and Shake, just move in. I think that's important. But you have to make those small zoning changes to attract these small businesses. And you have to do incentives like we are doing with DDA, with storefronts to entice new businesses to come in. Events are great. They're wonderful to attract residents and those prospective businesses to the city, but you really have to enhance the fiscal portion and make it a reality for them coming in where the cost is not so high and they can get this benefit of this walkable downtown, because we have a beautiful downtown. So that is an open space where we can be successful as long as we have a plan to attack those zoning changes that are much needed in the city right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll reread this for you, Thom. What will you do to attract more small businesses to downtown Utica?
Well, we've been doing it already. We've been very successful inviting small businesses into the city. Not even just small businesses, but businesses outside the immediate downtown. Like, for example, Krispy Kreme Donut. They saw that what we're doing in the area of on the Golden Corridor of Hall Road, they want to be part of that. As well, I've been in talks with the folks from Chick-fil-A, which I was going to hold on to that until it came to fruition. But people are seeing what we're doing in the city, and they're liking it. They see the energy. One thing that people say is, we've always done it this way. I can tell you that's the most dangerous phrase out there. We've always done it this way. And I'll tell you, when I came into the office, I told people, I said, you may know the city a little bit better than I do. You may know finance better than you may know the clerk's office better than I do. And I love that they do. Okay, my job is not to do those things. My job is to listen to people that are skilled in those areas and make decisions based upon that. So with having these people in place, we're actually able to build our little city, because my job is to go out there and talk to these people that want to be business owners and want to bring their business to our city. Okay, I'm showing people all the time that Utica is a great place to live, work, and visit. We have events with live music every Friday night. We have concerts and food truck rallies on Saturdays, and it's attracting people in their 30s and their 40s and older to come to our city and experience what we're doing here. They see this and say, what a great little place to visit. How do you think Royal Oak got popular? How do you think Rochester got popular? Okay, they went and they did things, and they attracted the people to come there and live in the city. So once it becomes a cool place to visit, it becomes a cool place to live, and that will drive property values too, because you're going to have a low supply and high demand, and that helps our tax base as well. But another thing I'm going to do, continue to do, is fight blight. We have these blighted buildings in the city that continue to be unchecked, and continuously these vacant buildings in the downtown district especially are receiving blight enforcement citations as well. And that's just happening this week, actually, but it's been happening throughout the last 2 years as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is for Thom to answer first. There are many ways to make decisions on what should be a priority issue for the city of Utica. How do you feel decisions should be made regarding competing priorities within the city, including unexpected requests and emergencies?
It's a really lengthy question.
It is.
Okay, so prioritizing decisions in the city, the final decision rests with the mayor oftentimes when it comes to the management of the city. Okay, but people have to understand there's two sides to this city, and they may not understand managerial-wise. There's this half of the wall where we're at here, okay, where the 7 council members make decisions together. I may have an idea, and I bring it up, and council may shoot it down, and they can do that. Another council person may have an idea, and it may get approved or shot down. That's just the way it works. When we're on that side of the wall, my job as the CEO of the city is to manage the personnel, okay, and sometimes make some business decisions within the city offices. But as the mayor, I don't make decisions just arbitrarily because I'm the mayor. That just doesn't work like that. I have a staff of people in the city hall. We make decisions for operating the city on a daily basis. But the mayor's job here is to run the business meeting when you're in city council. But again, that mayor's job is just one of 7 people. So when it comes to decision-making, I rest very heavily on the mayor pro tem and the other 6 members of council. So there's 7 of us together, and we work as a team to make these decisions. So oftentimes I'm criticized because I'll bring an idea to council that is maybe new and fresh and unheard of, and they'll say, "Why didn't you tell us this before?" I just thought of it yesterday. Sometimes that just happens. Okay, fresh ideas don't have a time frame, and when they come up, I share them with people. But again, I'm not the policymaker. I will be sometimes the person that has to be the chair of the meeting or the CEO of the city. But I don't really consider myself the CEO. I don't even like using that word. What I really like to consider myself is a city administrator. And sometimes as administrator, you have to administer and enforce rule or make some decisions. But again, there's 2 halves to this wall. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I'll read this again for you, Frank, since it is a lengthy question. There are many ways to make decisions on what should be a priority issue for the city of Utica. How do you feel decisions should be made regarding competing priorities within the city, including unexpected requests and emergencies?
Well, number one, you have to work together as a team. Mayor and council is a team. That's what it is. But the vision starts with that seat, the mayor's seat, working alongside, building that synergy with city council. When you talk about the fiscal piece, it's got to be number one, managerial. Because when we look in the city, if you look at the fund balance, if we had a catastrophic pipe blow in the city, we would have 3 months to be able to fund the longevity costs and personnel costs with this city to remain solvent. That's scary because that's our reserve that we have set. So from a managerial perspective, unexpected requests, your priorities as mayor is right there, the fiscal piece. You have to manage that. Secondly, transparency. I've been managing personnel my entire life. As a department chair, as a teacher, as a assistant principal, and as a union president. You have to be able to work with people. But it's not just telling them what to do. It's working with them and having them follow. But that starts with a vision. Lastly, the culture and climate piece. That has to be reset here in the city. Our culture, the pattern of shared assumptions of that group, and the climate, the sense or feeling that the staff members have here towards that organization, be it in police, fire, DPW, or in City Hall. That's my vision. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this question will go to you, Frank, to answer first. If elected to office, what avenues would you use to secure public input from all residents, including those who may not have internet service?
I think to secure public input, some of the things is you're going to have to go out to the people. You really do. You have to door knock. That's what I've been doing every day of this election with my wife sitting right there. That's important. That's how you gain input. Everybody's not on social media. And I love social media, and there's an avenue for it. But like my seniors at the 175, they said, we don't use the internet. So you go to them and you present the items, your idea, your vision. That's how you get feedback. Feedback has to come different ways. It comes from surveys. It can come from a survey online. It can be a mailer, etc. But you also have to have an area if they come to pay bills, like their water bill. If they come in here, have it here. You have to have a different routine. You have to have other ways to connect with the people. That's vital, especially in our size of the community. Because some people, I mean, to be quite honest, they may never leave their home. They're retired. They're worried about, their money and how am I going to pay for this and how am I going to pay for that? I can't take off of work. You have to be mindful of those things. So those are some of the different ways that I would secure public input. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, Thom, if elected to office, if re-elected to office, what avenues would you use to secure public input from all residents, including those who may not have internet service?
Well, an example would be when the lights went out just in the early part of 2017. It was, I think, March, February. It was really cold and we lost power. Myself and my wife, we went door to door over at Riverside 175 3 times, 3 days in a row, because we knew that the residents had either no power or partial power. So we went to every single door, knocked on every single door, made sure, what's your request? Do you have power? Can we get you something? Can we get an extension cord? Because some of the apartments had a furnace that was working because that portion of their electrical panel was working, where other parts of electrical panels were not working. So we took our time, 3 days in a row, went door to door and made sure that all the residents were safe. Okay. Another thing that I've done in the past, many times here in the last 2 years, I've gone out to see residents when they call with a complaint. There's a tree root lifting up the sidewalk. My neighbor has trees hanging over my fence. Or a number of different occasions, I've showed up at the people's homes and spoke with them myself and assessed the problem and said, okay, we're going to send out our code enforcement officer, or we're going to send out the right people to handle this, whether it be DPW grinding down a sidewalk to fix it, or the code enforcement officer to leave a love note on the neighbor's door, hey, mow your lawn, right? Excuse me. So a couple of things that we've done like that. Other things, we've created online surveys, which is very powerful. If you saw when we had the dog park, we had 700 people that responded to the survey, which is an actual factual snapshot of what people want to see. When we had the debate whether people wanted fireworks from Jimmy John's Field, some people didn't like it. My neighbors didn't like it very much at all. But what we did is we went to 221 different registered voters in the immediate affected area, and we surveyed them to see, what do you really want to see here? And it was better than 80% people said, we don't mind the fireworks. So we used a democratic service to go out there and say, what do you guys want? And we brought the results back, and we let council make the decision. So we are doing these things. We are actually creating the surveys. We are getting out to our people that are not necessarily on the social media. As well, we've enhanced our PEG channel, which is very informative, and you can be able to resource that too on Channel 5.
Thank you. Okay, this will be for you first, Thom. If it is allowed under state law and regulations, should Utica enact policy to allow recreational marijuana grow facilities and/or dispensaries to be established in the city?
I can tell you from 20 years of law enforcement experience, and having worked as a firefighter, where I've seen folks in all sorts of conditions, where I've responded to emergencies of people in every type of situation, from drugs, especially harder drugs. Now, marijuana could be seen by some people much more like how prohibition was with alcohol. Some people are pro-marijuana, and I don't really have a problem with that. Some people are against marijuana, and I don't have a problem with that either. I don't use it, and I'm not a fan of it. However, as far as a grow operation, not really a suitable location here in the city of Utica. I can't see our residents saying, yeah, we support that. Now, could it be a tax base and bring money in for the city? Potentially. But are we going to sell our morals for a couple dollars? I think our little city can do a lot more with our potential landscape than grow a medical marijuana facility or provisioning center or a grow house. Now, coming up in here in the election 2018, it's going to be on the ballot for people to decide whether they want recreational use or not. We've gotten several phone calls, even like a month, 2 or 3 phone calls a month, where people say, I want to open up a dispensary in your city. And we just hold off. We stand fast. We'll talk about it. Well, it's something that council, I believe, is not really ready to do. And I know that as the mayor, I'm not really ready to have medical marijuana come into our city, especially in the grow operation or a dispensary or even what the transport services. There's 5 different licenses that are out there. And I don't think our little city can really withstand that, even though it could be a potential revenue-generating service or business. I don't think we need to sell our morals for marijuana. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank, if it is allowed under state law and regulations, should Utica enact policy to allow recreational marijuana grow facilities and/or dispensaries to be established in the city?
I think there is a a place for this in in the state of Michigan, but I don't think that place is the city of Utica. I can say this from my mother's experience battling cancer. I think that the medicinal marijuana would have assisted my mom in her late days with her appetite through chemo. So when I say that there's a place in the state of Michigan for it, just not here, because Utica is transitioning. We have some other things that have been taking place that we have to address first. I think that Thom did mention the moral piece. I am a health educator. That's where my square is. So from that aspect, I do not believe this is the right time for it here in the city. Yes, it does build a tax base, don't get me wrong. However, I do see the side to it. Like I said, my mother, who was in late stage, 4-stage cancer, would have benefited from that medicinal use. So I cannot say that there's not a place for it in the city or in the state of Michigan. I just think at this time we have to address some other pressing items in the city, things that have changed recently, and we have to deal with that. And that's my take on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next question will be answered by you first, Frank. How will you look to improve traffic and road conditions throughout Utica?
Well, traffic and road conditions, I've been involved with talking with people in Macomb County about our traffic issues that we have. You have construction, that's going to be consistent. That's going to be an issue for the next, up to months to years. So when you're addressing certain traffic shifts and traffic items, this is a main thoroughfare. I don't think we'll ever get around that. But you do have to work with Macomb County Roads and the county in dealing with the issues that you see here in the city. We did have an issue where they were talking about changing, shifting traffic. When you're shifting traffic and when you're making studies, you have to make sure that you have the data. You have to do a study. You have to do a study, a traffic study. Not just lane strips, but a real detailed traffic study. How that will impact businesses down here, how this will impact people across from Van Dyke when you make those changes. Because any type of change, be it a light, be it a shift in traffic, is going to impact residents. And those that live on the other side of Van Dyke, when you're moving traffic like it was proposed, that will shift that traffic elsewhere. And you're talking about commuting, you're talking about people going to school, people going to work, and it just adds to the congestion. I think, as in terms of keeping our roads, you have to look for funding just outside, not necessarily Hall Road, but other areas of the city, because there's other parts of the city through my walks where residents have voiced concerns about the through traffic and the conditions of their roads. Thank you.
Thank you. Thom, how will you look to improve traffic and road conditions throughout Utica?
Well, what we've done in the past 2 years, one of the first things we've done is made it so that there's no left turn coming on eastbound Auburn to Brownell. That was after many residents approached and said, listen, we can't stand these vehicles coming through our neighborhood. We can't get out of our driveways. And so we looked into it and we found out that had merit. Okay, although these are public roads and people should kind of have the right to turn there sometimes, but what was happening was all this construction on Hall Road last summer was making it so people were using downtown as a bypass around Hall Road, which is, as we know, the bypass around Utica. As it turns out, people were using Auburn Road and Cass as their main thoroughfares. Well, so many people were turning left just onto Brownell, and then our emergency vehicles responding from the fire department couldn't get onto Summers to make it to the rescues because there was traffic blocking the way. Additionally, there was, in the past 2 years prior, there were 17 crashes at the corner of Summers and Cass. Okay, so traffic crashes. We've had 0 since we've implemented this. 0 crashes at that location. Okay, so the study is the experience of the police chief, the people at Macomb County Department of Roads, the people at State of Michigan, okay, MDOT. They looked at these some of these ideas, and they said these are great. Now, I won't take credit for these. I had a neighbor that approached me and said, hey, here's what I want to do. Public involvement. His involvement changed things. But I had residents that complained. I had residents that brought a solution. I brought them to council. I put them out. It became a thing. So do you think they did a traffic study when they wanted to close down Van Dyke for our 200-year anniversary for a week? Was there a traffic study done then? I don't think there was a traffic study done then. How would that impact the traffic in the city of Utica? Okay. So we didn't do a traffic study then, but I am looking at right now doing a traffic study. It's $12,500 of the city's money. We can avoid that traffic study, the formal one done by the engineers, and have MDOT, who's already signed off on it, Macomb County Department of Roads, who signed off on it, and our police chief, who signed off on it to get the job done. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, this question is for you first, Thom. Please tell us what aspects of your educational and employment backgrounds make you feel you are more qualified than your opponent to be mayor of Utica.
Well, I won't be able to compete with Frank in education, unfortunately. I'm a product of Utica High School. I graduated from there and joined the military, served 5 years, where I was a military intelligence operative, like I said. I then came home on the GI Bill, and I went to Macomb Community College. After that, I started a family and went right to work. My life, I didn't have the opportunity to, well, I guess I did, but life gave me a certain route, and I took it. And that route for me was an associate's degree from Macomb Community College. But you don't need a degree in service. You don't need a degree in can-do. You don't need a degree and pick yourself up and go out and go to work, okay? I go to work every night, 11 o'clock at night. I work as a police officer. I get off at 7 in the morning. I get home in bed by 8 in the morning. I'm up usually by noon or 1 o'clock, coming to the office and I do the job, okay? So what I may lack in education, formal education, you can't take away what I've learned by being a servant to our country and to the cities where I've worked as a police officer and firefighter, okay? One thing I've learned is to answer the call when questioned, okay, or when asked to come. I've raised my hand for this country many times. When I joined the military, I've raised my hand when I swore an oath as a police officer. I've raised my hand when I swore an oath as a firefighter. I raised my hand when I swore an oath as your mayor, okay? I am a service-oriented individual. I go to work, okay? Now, I would like to say that I had an advanced degree. I just don't. But that doesn't make me any different than any one of your other neighbors out there, okay? I don't assume to be better than anyone. I don't assume that education made me better. But I will tell you, I am your neighbor. I am just like you. I'm the guy that mows his own lawn, well, except for we just got a service last couple of days ago. We need a little help. We're running out of time. They're coming every other week. So, but I am just pretty much your average, regular, blue-blooded, ready to go next-door neighbor guy. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Frank, please tell us what aspects of your educational and employment backgrounds make you feel you are more qualified than your opponent to be mayor of Utica.
Well, I'm a product of Harper Woods Bishop Gallagher High School. I'm also a product of St. Matthew K through 8 elementary. So when we talk about backgrounds, it's not necessarily a college degree, because a college degree doesn't make you who you are. But I had the work ethic instilled with me as a young man through my parents and through my educational background, through my coaches. I had the opportunity to earn a scholarship to Eastern Michigan University, and I worked hard for that. I worked very hard because a lot of kids where I grew up in Detroit didn't have that opportunity that I had. They didn't have two parents that were focused on my education and about where I needed to be and projecting and saying, where are you going to be in the next 5 years? My dad always told me that. He said, remember where you came from. Okay, he always said, remember where you came from, but not where you're headed, because this is where you need to be. My education, obviously I went to Eastern Michigan University where I had my teaching degree, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I've been in 21 years in public servant with students, and it's the best thing that ever happened to me. I could not ask for a better profession than to serve students and families of Southfield Public Schools. And I mean that from my heart. From a managerial standpoint, I did get my master's degree in educational administration, and that's what's important with this position and with this time right now in our city. You have to have that managerial experience. Now, yes, I received it for my diploma, but it's the experience that you have day to day that I have, that I've been doing over the past 21 years in education, that makes me the best candidate. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Frank, this will be for you first. How can Utica establish itself further as a destination city for millennials, be it for visiting or for residency?
I'm sorry, you said millennials?
Yes, how can Utica establish itself further as a destination city for millennials, be it for visiting or for residency?
I think we have established ourselves as a destination city. To take it a little further, it's important, and I go back to this, is just like Royal Oak and some of the other cities have done in the past, in changing the zoning, okay, where you have living upstairs and you have business downstairs. Those are small zoning changes. The other thing is we got to capitalize on this property we have over at Jimmy John's in not just collecting revenue for that property, okay, our tax base. We have to be able to build there. We need to have them build there and to increase occupancy there. That draws those millennials. That is the spot that people will want to look and down by that river and see that. That will attract those millennials. That will attract a lot of individuals, but we have to hold people accountable. We have to hold people accountable. As in terms of visiting, I think with adding the canoe launch and some of the outdoor activities with our trail, I think that's vital. That's a vital part of this city. But with that, safety, public safety. We have to reinvent and look at how are we going to support our police officers, our chief, who has does a fantastic job. But how do we further support that? How do we help them with being at different areas in the city and building that police community with our citizens so they know their police officers? Just like when I was growing up in the city of Detroit, I knew my police officers who were in the 5th Precinct because they made sure they were at our football games, basketball games, and you're building that sense of community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Thom? How can Utica establish itself further as a destination city for millennials, be it for visiting or residency?
Well, I think that the excitement that the ballpark has brought to the city is just one piece of the element. Or I should say one element of the whole thing. It has established a sense of excitement that's happening in Macomb County and throughout the region. We would be foolish not to take advantage of that wave of excitement that it's providing. We have a high wave, and right now it's only going to be there for so long, this excitement for the ballpark, and hopefully we'd like to be able to keep that, right? But things kind of get, a little downhill after a while. Maybe the excitement goes away. I would like to continue to build on that excitement because we add new things to the city. We're adding a new park. We're adding a dog park. We've looking at adding a skate park, a sledding hill. Okay, the people that are the millennials are going to be having children that they want to take to these venues. Okay, I've reached out to a friend of mine that owns a sushi restaurant. Said, hey, please bring some culture. Let's get a sushi restaurant downtown. We have a burger place. We have a couple bars. How about a sushi place? Right? How about Middle Eastern food? Okay. How about a fantastic Chinese restaurant? Some things that we're lacking that we could really use in the city is culture. And that's what people want. That's why you see people going to Royal Oak. That's why you see people going to Ferndale. Every person that you could possibly imagine or run into in your whole life of creed, culture, experience goes to those cities. We also have the ability to do that. When you go to these cities, Royal Oak, Birmingham, Ferndale, they weren't always what they are today. They were something probably more like Utica, where they're just a little sleepy community. But somebody sparked an idea. Somebody said, I want something to be great in the city. And then the next guy saw what they were doing. The next gal saw what they were doing. And it built, and they built upon that excitement. And that's what I'm hoping that we can do with this wave of excitement that we're continuing to build upon. I would like to see downtown offices moved out of the city. Let's build something right here. Let's build an excitement something right here, okay? Mixed-use development. Move the city hall elsewhere. Move the police department, the fire department elsewhere. We have real value in real estate right here that we can redevelop. We talked about that in the first month I was in office. We held a town hall. Still something we want to do. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this will be for you to answer first, Thom. Which types of businesses do you think would be the most important targets for business attraction efforts to Utica, and why?
You can't just limit that question or the idea into downtown. We have we're basically two cities separated by M53. On the east side of 53, you have a very large, thriving box store or big box store industry, right? Followed by some smaller retails. On the west side of M53, you have a sleepy community bedroom, community, which is great. And then on the west side of Van Dyke, you have a historical district in a little downtown. We're pretty much pigeonholed where we are. We can't really change too much because if we are where we are, we're not growing any, right? The city is just this dynamic. What we need to do is redevelop within that dynamic. The businesses that we would attract here, our big box stores are going by the wayside. Amazon's building a 1 million square foot building up the street here. Do you think these big box stores like Best Buy are going to be around much longer? We need to diversify what's going to happen in those locations. Okay? I don't know what that answer is. I'm not in the development process, but I know people that are. And there are people that do it that we should bring in and talk to them about it. Okay? We rely very heavily on those big box stores up there all along Hall Road between Shaner and M53 as a tax base for our city. We have 6 major hotel chains. They're not going away, but the big box stores could. So thinking outside the box stores, looking to see what we can do that's going to bring people here, restaurants, entertainment venues. People need to be entertained. They don't need to necessarily go to Best Buy to buy their stuff. And I'm not knocking Best Buy. God knows I hope they stay there forever. Okay? But the trend is that these big box stores are going away. So if we can redevelop into something that showcases Utica a little more than just a beer and a burgers, kind of neighborhood, that's what we really need to do. And they bring that culture element back too. Give people a reason to come here. Find the best restaurants. Find the best venues like the Dave & Buster's. They're never going to go out of business probably because they continue to bring families there weekend after weekend after weekend. So when we find that right mixture of entertainment, quality food, safe locations, we're going to get those people that want to move into our downtown. We're going to get those businesses that express interest in having their business thrive in Utica. Thanks.
Excellent, thank you. Frank, which types of businesses do you think would be the most important targets for business attraction efforts to Utica, and why?
Well, to first start, I have to go back to the zoning changes. Those small incremental zoning changes will impact what businesses you can attract. That starts with the redevelopment and new vision for that Van Dyke corridor. That is an area. There is the downtown area. It's a walkable community. But you have to make those tiny changes to those codes so that you can extend those to those different businesses. How do you attract them? Who is the person that's speaking to these businesses? Who's going out to the community? Because that's what they want to see. They're buying you, not necessarily just the city. So your vision has to be clear. It has to be pinpointed, and you have to target those individual businesses that you want to see down here. Redevelopment, like I said, of the Van Dyke corridor, and culture and art. You have to go for those. Culture and art is an economic driver for a city, any city, especially with our downtown with the walkability. Those are the areas you have to hit. When I say culture, and like a Vianetti's, okay, like they have in downtown Northville. They have poetry slams, they have all kinds of different things. Something like that would be wonderful down here. But like I said, it comes back to the person who's setting that vision for the city. Who's going out to those businesses? Who's marketing the city? You're the face of this city in that seat. So that's how I would change. Thank you.
Thanks. I think we do have time to get to this last question here, and then we'll wrap up with our closing statements. But Frank, this one is for you to answer first. In what ways will you help foster a sense of community in Utica?
I think, sorry, looking for my plans. I think for community, the community commitment is essential. You have to have community at that center. Treating all residents' concerns in the same manner, without bias. That's everybody. That's from the downtown, across Van Dyke, over here across Hall Road. You have to treat everybody's residents with the same type of empathy, with the same type of care, and you have to be consistent with that, because people will get disenfranchised. Community members will get disenfranchised with what they're seeing happening in the city. I think developing community forums where you go to the individual communities and you speak to residents in the different areas. I think that's important. When you're talking about restoring community, block clubs, okay? Building that sense of community. Not everybody knows their neighbors. When I was growing up, you knew your neighbors. People looked out for you. Whether you were walking and doing something good, or if you're doing something bad, your parents found out about it before you came home. That's what we have to bring back here. So when you hear me talk about culture and climate, that's what I'm talking about. What are those shared perceptions, those shared ideas? And lastly, when we're talking about community commitment, is enhancing our police and fire, supporting them in their initiatives, giving them the opportunities and the equipment they need to be successful. And lastly, affordable housing for our seniors. You have to be mindful. Some people are saying, do I buy this blood pressure medicine or do I eat? Or do I pay this bill? That's essential. I have a father who's in a resident care facility, and that's important to me. And those are the changes I'd like to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Thom, in what ways will you help foster a sense of community in Utica?
Well, we're actually doing that in our area where I live right now. We've created a block club called the Utica Historic District Block Club. We just had a gathering on August 28th. We had over 50 people to our home, and we had a big cookout barbecue type thing. Everyone had brought a little something potluck. And the neighbors said again and again, this is the first time we've had this. This is the first time we've really gotten to know our neighbors. One thing that took place with this effort is one of our neighbors, Helen, lives on Cass Avenue. She has the pink house. Without the efforts of our neighbors who got together from this block club and who actually went out and did this, we wouldn't have been able to get her home in the shape that it's in. We created a GoFundMe page. We were able to get a local landscaper here from Utica. They came out and they helped landscape the property. They helped, we got enough money, we could get the home painted, but all because we joined together with our neighbors. And we actually have a legitimate block club, okay? We all know each other's names. We all do things. We all show up to music in the park together, okay? So I encourage people to create these little block clubs. We get people from the east side of Van Dyke that come over, okay? We got the Sylvesters. We got a handful of other folks that live over there. We got Kevin, I can't remember his wife's name, but we got a whole bunch of people that come and because we're creating this little block club, okay? And we are encouraging people to get involved in Utica, get to know your neighbors. We created Kids Fest this year. Thousands of kids showed up. Hundreds and hundreds of neighbors got together and got to see their kids playing outside in a safe community at a free event, zero charge. Another thing that we did I'm very proud of is we had a Christmas tree lighting last year that was like none other before. Years past, they went to the fire hall. They had 25 kids from the band or so, and their parents came out, and it was okay. Last year, we had 600 people is the estimate that came out. 100 kids in the band dressed in band uniforms came out and they performed. We had Santa Claus, live reindeer. We had 15-passenger horse and carriage. We had the stage. We had the singers from Meadowbrook Theater. We're creating community events to bring our neighbors together, giving them a reason to live downtown or live and visit downtown. It's a great spot in Utica, and we're doing it through our little block clubs. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much to both of you. I'm going to draw names now for your. This will just be your opportunity to give a final statement. You'll have 2 minutes to do that about why you feel you are the best candidate for mayor of the city of Utica. And the first person to give their statement will be Frank.
This race is not about events. It's about leadership. Principles, integrity, experience. Change is not a process, or change is a process, not an event. It's about love, respect, and dignity. This is a pivotal time in the city. I walk every day to stay connected to all citizens' needs, listening, acting, and what they want to see in the future in the city. Transparency and trust in city government must be restored. To be effective at leading change, you must understand as a leader, what are those unique characteristics of the change and those attributes of your organization, the people. I've been a chain agent all my life in education and in city council. I understand and connect with students, parents, and community members every day in my job as a school administrator. Leaders listen carefully and observe constantly. Leaders they reflect on decisions carefully and include and value everyone's viewpoint. Selecting next mayor Utica The right answer is not enough. Change comes from citizens, work, and behaviors of individuals in our city, in our community. You must create commitment and eliminate fear with your vision for this city. Change begins with the C. Vote Czapski for mayor on November 6th and love where you live. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frank. Okay, Thom?
First of all, thank you, Frank. You did a great job. I mean, sincerely, I think your words are very true, and you spoke very well. So thank you so much for that tonight. I've had a couple of accomplishments while in office, and if this turns out to be my last run in office, I will feel very accomplished. Recently, we received over $775,000 in grants from the state of Michigan. We've done things like we moved our Veterans War Memorial to a place of prominence. Okay, we made a decision, we moved it. Our veterans loved it. I implemented 24-hour staffing at our fire department. Okay, these aren't events. These are significant changes in the city. 24-hour staffing at the fire department, never had that before, never before seen. Our response times are fantastic. There's nothing more important than safety. And when you have the emergency at your home, our firefighters are going to be there because we have immediate 24-hour response now. We increased lighting at Heritage Park. If you drive down Van Dyke right now, you're going to see lighting at 10 o'clock at night. It's lit up beautiful. It was never there before. We've brokered a deal with Jimmy John's Field, finally, for them to start generating some revenue for the city of Utica. Okay? Never before done. Just last 2 weeks ago, or say maybe it was 2 weeks ago, we just got $3,000 in revenue by charging people for parking at Jimmy John's Field, which is never done before. So we're starting to take our piece of the pie from them. We've done some really great things here in the city of Utica the last 2 years. For me, it's been a real positive change, and I'm very honored to have been the mayor. I'm thankful to my wife, my children, for allowing me to spend the time to do it. It takes away a lot of time from the family, and there are a lot of sleepless nights and definitely sleepless days. But it is a truly hometown feel for us. I am exceptionally proud to be the mayor, and I am asking for your vote on November 6th. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to both of you gentlemen for being with us today. And I'd just like to wrap up by saying thank you to the staff of Utica for their assistance with putting the forum together today, as well as taping these programs for Utica viewers and for airing them at future dates. Our chamber thanks you. Your fellow citizens thank you. And we do wish both of you, both of the candidates with us today, the best of luck in the upcoming election. And don't forget to vote on November 6th. Thank you very much. We'll take a very brief break, and then we'll start our council forum.
I just want to make sure we're in agreement.
Good job, brother.
Good work. You did a great job.